Thrive. Today, we're diving into a profound conversation about reclaiming strength after sexual abuse.
That's right, Mary. We have an incredibly special guest with us today, Marie McKenzie, a nurse and sexual assault recovery coach, who is also a survivor herself.
I'm Maddie,
I'm Vita,
and
and
we are
we're
here
here
to
to
thrive.
thrive.
Welcome to Thrive. We have with us Marie McKenzie, who brings a unique perspective to this topic of sexual abuse, blending her professional expertise with her personal journey of overcoming trauma. She's a nurse, she's an author, and a sexual abuse recovery coach. Welcome to Thrive, Marie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so
Thank you.
delighted to be here with you this evening.
And we are excited to
We are
have
very excited to have you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you taking the time. We
you.
know you just got off work, so we'll try not to keep you too long.
That's okay as long as it takes.
Thank you. Miss Marie, could you start by sharing what well, not inspired you, but what is your personal experience that led you to be a recovery coach?
Right. As you say, I'm Marie McKenzie. I'm a sexual assault recovery coach, and I help women to find trust, love, and intimacy in their lives after sexual assault. As a survivor myself, I know what women go through after the sexual assault, what the healing journey look like, what we go through, the lack of trust, even our own emotions, feelings, and voice. We don't trust ourselves. When it comes to intimacy, we have problems accepting intimacy or even intimacy with ourselves, much more to love, loving for ourselves or accepting love for a good man who may be coming into our lives. So as a result, we settle. Like, for example, I settled for relationships that without any deep commitment or meaning. Person may have been married. I dated men that were married.
Mm-hmm.
I engaged in promiscuity, had health diet issues that I wasn't in tune with even my own self to care for me. I suffer with bouts of depression. Some women may have problems setting boundaries. We tend to be people pleasers. We may enter into relationships even when we know it's not good for us.
Yes.
So as a registered nurse, and I must say that's the only career I've ever wanted since I was a child. Growing up in Jamaica, my aunt was a nurse, and I spent a lot of time at the hospital with her. So I always wanted to be like her too. So when I relocated to the United States, and I'm glad I got to do that. And while working in the emergency room, I cared for survivors of sexual violence and also in the community setting. And in caring for them, I'm encouraging them you're not your trauma, care for yourself. Healing is possible. But I wasn't doing the same for myself. I was muted. My assault happened at the age of 11, and I didn't disclose until I was almost 60. I had told one aunt by then, but she had already passed. So I was telling them all these things while I was depressed, I was suicidal, I was making poor choices for my health and overall well-being. So of course I was a fraud. So in my associations with people and organizations who support survivors of sexual assault, I developed the tools and techniques that facilitated my own healing. So here I am now, empowering women to do the same for themselves because I want them to know healing is possible. You're not your trauma. You don't have to. Sexual assault is not a life sentence.
Right.
It shouldn't have the final answer.
Right.
So, and that's why I'm here. That's
And
what
now you
brought me
mean
here.
it. And now you
Yes.
mean it.
We are so thankful for you being here.
Thank you.
I was looking through your social media and I saw a post that caught my attention. It said, I wasn't abused, I was just fondled. Can you elaborate the many ways that women often minimize their experience of abuse?
Yes. And that quote was from a woman I
Mhm.
spoke with. And until she's in her 50s, and that
Mhm.
happened to her when she was a child.
Mhm.
And that's what she said to me. That was a couple months ago. I wasn't sexual assaulted, I was fondled. The thing is, a lot of people do not have the knowledge of what constitutes sexual assault. They believe if you're not physically raped, then they were not sexual assault. Sexual assault is an umbrella term that covers uh, different things: inappropriate touching, unwelcome touching, fondling, rape, voyeurism, and you go on. And when it comes to a child, anything sexually is when an adult or anyone crosses the line sexual with a child, that's sexual abuse, because, as you know, children do not have the capacity to give consent. So many people minimize or try to rationalize so what happened. It could be to minimize the pain and the shame. Some people and some victims and the people around them rationalize because they want to perpetuate continued abuse. It may be a parent in the home who is the perpetrator, or someone in the church or the school, some authority figure, or someone who is providing something for the family. So they minimize and rationalize what's going on, so to keep the peace or whatever the benefits they were deriving from that. However, at the same time, the victim remains victimized and traumatized and not being supported. So those are some of the reasons why women maybe rationalize or minimize what happened to them.
Miss Marie, what are some common triggers that survivors of sexual assault may experience after that terrible event?
Triggers are essentially anything that reminds a survivor of the trauma that happened. It has to do with the senses: sight, sound, smell, maybe a taste. You may see someone who reminds you of the perpetrator. It may be a special cologne, a special scent, or a sound something you were looking at. I remember one survivor who said when she was being raped, she was frozen. She was just fixated at an object in the room. So every time she sees that object, I think it was a vase or something was in the room. Every time she sees something that reminded her of that, she goes into a panic. And although it's been many, many years later, it still sends her into a panic. It may be a phone call that reminds them of the 911 call they'd made when they sought support after
Mhm.
the incident.
Mhm.
And every survivor reacts differently to different trauma, and their triggers may be different. What is triggering to one person may not be to another. What is traumatic to one person may not be traumatic to others. So yes, those are some of the things that a survivor may experience. Like, for
And you,
example, one woman I spoke with, she's been married for a long time, and good marriage for over 15 years with kids. And one day her husband just reached for her and she recoiled
Mhm.
for out of the blue, because it may be years without a trigger: 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And then one day it just comes back out of the blue. And then you may panic, heart racing, sweating. It's can be overwhelming.
oh yeah, yes, it can be. You're talking to two survivors, so
Oh,
we know very well everything that you're talking about. And one of the things that you said that is very interesting in a misconception of survivors of sexual abuse is some go into promiscuity while some go into avoidance. But the fact that they go into promiscuity doesn't mean that they're not traumatized. They're just as traumatized. But people misinterpret the fact that they're entering into promiscuity and the fact that it didn't matter to them, or the ones that go into avoidance if they don't have an understanding partner, then you know they have those kinds of issues because it's like, well, that already happened and it was not me. Why are you having this reaction? Not everybody understands the depth of the trauma of survivors.
Yeah, that's a part of the trauma. And there's no clear explanation why one person avoid and
Mhm.
one choose promiscuity. I mean, let's not take that word choose out because you
Right.
don't
Right.
choose, you're
Right.
traumatized, and the brain and how you process things has changed.
Mhm.
And 2020, in 2017, the American Academy of Experts on Traumatic Stress did the research, and the result of that was that they found that an overwhelming number of childhood sexual assault survivors do turn to promiscuity for some reason or the other. They may, it's a distorted feeling that, oh, if I'm desired, um, that's kind of, think of that as a love. It may be to numb the feeling of, take them away from thinking of the trauma, from feeling. And then another person may just avoid it,
Mhm.
intimacy completely. So why? We don't
Mhm.
know
Right.
exactly, but those are some of the reactions that survivors may have.
Mhm.
Because trauma does terrible things to your brain
Mhm.
and it affects your whole life emotionally, spiritually, physically, and mentally. It's and to think that something that's not your fault, you
Mhm.
didn't bring this on yourself, and that's just some of the things that happen, how it's
Absolutely.
manifested.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I
No,
know it's necessary.
yes.
It is very necessary, but I knew it wasn't going to be easy.
And a lot of people are uncomfortable with this conversation. I know
Mhm.
April was Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month, but this conversation needs to be 365, 24/7.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I always say, I am not concerned about the people who are uncomfortable.
Right.
Right.
That's not my
Right.
concern at
Right.
all.
Right.
We need to keep talking about this because survivors need to know you are not alone
Mhm.
and help is available,
Mhm.
because there are women out there who think nobody would believe my story.
Mhm.
I'm
Right.
alone.
Right.
Yes. So,
Um, from age 8 to 12, I was molested.
wow. Sorry about that.
And I finally told my mom, and I was blessed when I told her, she did not think about it. She said, I believe.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Everyone
Ooh.
does not, they're not blessed with that.
No, they're not.
And as soon as she found out, her number one goal was to make sure that I was out of that situation.
Hmm.
And I'm very, very thankful for that. But I was one of the ones that turned into promiscuity. Went to an all white high school, ended up going to an all black college, men everywhere. And I don't know how I came up with this, but I decided I'm going to get men to fall in love with me and then I break their heart.
Need for control.
That was my thinking.
That was your thinking.
That was my thinking. I'm going to get men to fall in love with me and then I break their hearts. But I never thought about what if I fall in love?
Yes.
I didn't think about that. But because of the promiscuity, I was raped twice in college.
Yes.
I didn't
And
I didn't tell my mom until I was in my 40s.
wow. Yes. A
I
lot of
told her I
survivors
told her
don't
I
talk.
couldn't tell her. I came home from school after my first year of college, but I couldn't tell her why. And I just let her fuss because she
Mm.
was like, "You're at this, awesome HB, historically black college, and you want to come home." And I just looked at her. I felt like I couldn't tell. I don't. I believe that I could have, but
Yeah.
where I was then, I felt like that I couldn't tell her. So I went into promiscuity. But then when I got married, I went into withdrawal.
Wow.
Yes, I went into withdrawal when I got married. But the Lord blessed, and He's brought me through it because in 2 months I'll be married to the same man 40 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes, 40
Did
years.
you share your experience with him
Uh, I, sh-
initially?
I shared my experience with him when we were just friends. So he knew everything about me. And he still asked me to marry him. There are some lingering things from a sexual assault. I am 60 years old, and to this day, I cannot sleep in a totally dark room. I have to
Mhm.
leave my bathroom door cracked with light so that when I open my eyes, I can see what's going on around me. And that's because then I was in a totally dark room.
Yes.
I can't do it. I don't feel comfortable. Um, I know I am delivered. I know this in
Yes.
Jesus' name.
Amen.
And I know that I don't have anything to be afraid of. But out of everything that I did, that's the only thing that lingers for me. I cannot sleep in a totally dark room.
Yes.
And my husband respected that. And to this day, he's old and crazy. But number one, I thank God for him because he understood.
Yes. Yeah, you're blessed because so many women do not have a supportive
Hmm.
spouse. When they disclose, it's like some said they're called names or the
Hmm. Hmm.
relationship ends there. So that's such a blessing to have a supportive spouse. Yeah.
But it was rough. The first 10 years of my marriage, I was the worst wife. And my experience had turned into anger. And I was doing things to him, but it wasn't because he did things, it's
Right.
because I couldn't do things to my attacker, my abuser. So I did, but I went into counseling, thank you, Jesus. But
Hmm.
we talk about that now. He said the first 10 years of our marriage, I didn't even know if I was going to make it because it was rough. It's like he wanted to fix it for me, but
Yes,
he
but it
couldn't
can't.
fix it.
Yes.
He could not fix it. So, I pulled back from our sexual relationship, our intimate relationship.
Mhm.
But God is faithful
Yes.
because I never thought that I would be married 40 years.
Yes.
But I believe that
Congratulations.
he sent
Mhm.
me the right person to
Yes.
understand that part. Now he's crazy in other areas, but yeah, he understood that part.
Well, in my case, my first sexual assault happened when I was 4.
4.
I was 4. I didn't know what was happening. And then after that, a family member when I was 12. Um, I didn't disclose until I was 24, 25 to my mom. And because it was a relative, she she was one of those people who said it could have been worse. Okay, because the conversation was we were going to visit that person, and I said I don't want to go. And she said, well, why? And that's when I finally disclosed. Okay, you don't have to go, and it could have been worse, and we never talked about it. I went to the avoidance section instead of promiscuity because I was scared.
Mm.
And I've been married more than once. I'm not married now because the first man I married was a man that was 20 years older than me because he was safe. He was he didn't have a desire
Hmm.
for sex, and he was safe. So I felt safe in that sense. The problem was once I got into the marriage, and I started feeling comfortable. The same thing that got me there got me out because now I was ready to. now that I was confident enough in myself to be with someone, now I couldn't be because he hadn't changed. Uh, then I was with somebody else who was the question of, well, Dad didn't do it. That this had nothing to do with me. So get over it.
Oh,
Um, and I was in a domestic violence situation, and I was, you know, um, abused sexually within my marriage. So now I'm happily single. I'm not doing this again. But the trigger for me is a belt.
belt.
Belts. I don't have a single belt in this house. There's no belts in my house, and it comes from the 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 sound of the belt when he was coming into my room when I was 12. And the one thing I have to be grateful, because I had to tell my partners before I was with them, because otherwise they would not have been able to touch me. Um, either one of them had to wait until I was ready, because
Right.
there was no, I was totally in avoidance, and I could go into a panic attack in the middle of it, and I would say, we could be together 5 years, and one day I will have to tell you, get off, and you have to get off,
Right.
because I can't. I'm going to start screaming, and it got nothing to do with you.
Right.
It's not personal. So, I don't know what I said. Oh, so the one thing that I have to be grateful for both of them is they knew about the belt situation, and they never took their belts in front of me. If they had
Oh,
belts on their pants, they would go to a separate room, take their belts on. If they were going to put their belts on, they would do that.
oh, that's
But yeah, that they were very considerate. I was very grateful. But I don't own a single belt. There is not a belt in this room. There's a little boy that lives here, and he doesn't have belts for his pants. I don't do belts.
yes,
And he's a trigger for me.
yes.
So
It's interesting the different triggers
Yeah,
that survivors have,
yeah,
mhm,
and how unique it is to everyone.
mhm,
yeah.
And I'm so glad you disclosed and they
mhm,
were supportive because not everyone is blessed with that
Right,
situation.
mhm,
I
right.
do encourage women when I talk to them to disclose because how does that spouse support
mhm,
you when you're triggered? They won't know why,
mhm.
and how to support you.
Right.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
really commend you on the steps you took
Mhm,
and that you were blessed with, partners who
mhm.
supported you
Mhm.
because that doesn't happen a lot.
No, absolutely.
Doesn't happen a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. It doesn't happen a lot. So in that area, we were blessed.
Yeah. And you
With
do have, as you mentioned, you do have the people who are looking on the survivor and like, oh, it's 10, 20 years. Get
Mhm,
over it.
yeah,
It's time to move on. There
mhm.
it's seldom like that, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, you don't just get over it and move on. Something
Right.
that's so traumatic.
Mhm.
It's a process and each survivor's journey is different. It's
Yes.
not linear. Some days you're going a mile forward and the next day you may go 2 miles backward.
Mhm,
yeah.
And I encourage women to, you know, acknowledge those
mhm.
days when
Yes.
you want to take a break and just survive that day.
Mhm,
If all you
Yes.
did that day was survive, that's okay.
mhm.
Don't quit, just keep looking for help, getting support because healing is essential.
Yes,
Mhm,
it
We are not
is.
our trauma.
mhm,
You can heal, survive, and thrive.
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
thrive.
Yes.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes. We're doing that.
Well, we
Yes.
know that you wrote a memoir
Mhm.
called, and that is a bestseller, that it's titled Things That Kept Me Up at Night.
Keep.
Oh, I'm
That
sorry. Things
things
That
that
Keep Me
keep me
Up
up
at
at
Night.
night. Mm-hmm.
Um, Tell me how that helped you in your own recovery, and what did you felt that the readers could get out of that book?
Okay, first I need to say how that book came about.
Mm-hmm.
So 2021 was like when everything came out publicly. I went on the podcast where I was being interviewed on my role as a sexual assault nurse examiner. And I first disclosed about my sexual abuse.
Wow.
And I shared the episode with friends and family, of course. They were shocked because I'd
Mm-hmm.
not told them. And through that, I had family members and friends who shared their own story of childhood sexual abuse. Because if Marie can share, then I can.
Yes.
They didn't
Yes.
all go publicly the way I did, but just to
Mm-hmm.
start healing was
Yes.
great for them.
Yes.
And then shortly thereafter, I was navigating my Facebook page and up popped a post for a 30-day writing challenge. Now, I've never thought of writing a book, but I Facebook messaged the lady, Nelena Kai. I was like, what kind of a name is that? And she had an informational session which I attended. And that night, it was to write your memoir or a self-help book. Surprisingly, I'm a nurse, but I decided I didn't know anything to write a self-help book, so I chose memoir. And I remember the night she said, if it's something traumatic or painful, do not write it at night. I got off the call and wrote the first chapter of things that keep me up at night. I don't know why that's what I wrote about, because it was not like a burning desire. I need to get that story out, but that's how the Lord led that.
Mm-hmm.
And in June of 2021, it was published. Now, before I published, we toyed around with the title, if I should change it to things that kept me up at night. It was funny that you said that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided no, because trauma healing is like an addict.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you may be fine one day, but then you may get derailed another.
Yeah.
The triggers
You
may
could be
come later on.
triggered.
So
Yes.
it's like it's a process,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lifelong process
Right.
of healing and surviving. So we kept the title. Now it was very cathartic writing it, just to know that the secret is out,
Mhm.
and it doesn't have to keep me up at night anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the impact it had on the readers, the reviews were totally what I hadn't thought about, how it was going to impact people. I was getting, thank you for sharing your story. It gave me my voice, it empowered other survivors to share their story. Maybe not writing a book or on a podcast or publicly as I did, but went on to start getting help to heal.
Yes.
And it became an Amazon #1 bestseller. It won an award from the Florida Publishers and Authors Association, which I'm very grateful for. Um, I draw a blank. It was being used in therapy sessions for other survivors.
Great.
Yes, social workers were using it in therapy session, I was told by a nurse. So it's and it has continued to bless people. So my purpose is advocating for survivors. I'm on the board of the Florida Council Against Sexual Violence. I coach women to help to find trust, love, and intimacy back in their lives, because it's not easy getting to that next level after a sexual assault.
Right.
It is not an easy process, as we know. It's not. It's a process. And some days you're fine to be fine for years, and then at another time, not so fine.
That's true.
Yes.
That is true.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Was it a year ago, 2 years ago? Something told me to look this person up on Facebook, the one that had sexually assaulted me in college, not once, but twice. And in the last year or so, I looked him up on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I had seen his face in over 40 years.
Wow.
But I knew it was him.
Mm-hmm.
And I messaged him. I'm Vita. We went to Alabama A&M together, and you raped me twice. I didn't know how he was going to take it. It didn't even matter. I just knew that I had
To say that.
to say what I said. A couple of days later, I got a message back from him. He said, I remember you and I am so sorry I did that to
Oh.
you. Oh my God. He
Ooh.
apologized. I'm tingling. I'm, mm. He apologized for what he did to me. He said,
Mm-mm.
I'm no longer that person. I'm a Christian. And he begged me, please forgive me for what I did to you. Yeah, that helped my healing. I mean, it
Yes.
just zoomed. It's like, okay, that's over.
Yes, I
But
can imagine. He must have been, was he thinking of it over the years? The opportunity to
I
apologize?
didn't go into all I say I need to do is remind him who I was, remind him of what he did.
And he remembered
Even if he had not messaged me back,
that was for you.
Celebrate Recovery taught me to, if you're not in a dangerous situation, let that person know what they did to you and that you forgive them. Oh, yeah, and my message that I originally sent him told him what he did, and I said, I forgive you in the name of Jesus.
Amen.
And when
Yes.
he replied, I was shocked, number one, but what he said, I'm thankful that Jesus is in him because I felt that he was really remorseful for what he did to me.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was it. But I carried that for over 40 years. I had been in so much counseling. But
Hmm.
what really, really helped me to start living my best life when I met her 8 years ago and Celebrate Recovery.
Oh,
She helped
yes.
me so much, and she was my sponsor, from sponsor to couponing and wrestling buddies to best friends to now we're sisters.
Yes.
We
Support
are,
is so essential to a
yes,
survivor's
yes,
journey. You know,
yes,
it doesn't have to be family because most of us don't have supportive families.
right,
Families are some of the ones who traumatize us in the first
right,
place. So it
right.
doesn't have to be family and it doesn't have to be in person either, you know.
Right.
So healthy connections,
Yes.
very important.
Very, very important. Very. And we didn't even know what we had gone through, the similarities, until we became friends. And when we started talking, it's like, oh my God,
Yes.
this happened to me, that happened to you. And I just know the Lord, it was no accident. The Lord brought us together for a reason.
Yeah. Isn't God amazing?
God
Yes,
is
Isn't God amazing?
amazing. God is amazing. He has people out there, and they may
Yes.
not be your family, they may not be your blood,
Right.
but He has people out there who
Yes.
carry His love
Yes.
and will share it with you.
Yes.
So I try to make sure I overshadow her
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, she'll be like, I cannot believe you did it. That's what sisters do,
Yes.
you know? But
Yes.
we have truly been able to help each other and then be able to help others with our story.
Right. And you
Hmm.
know, as you say, help others with their story, there are people out there would says, oh, move on from it now, stop revisiting and telling it over and over. But we are not telling it for ourselves anymore. We're telling it for others.
But
As I
right.
said before, there are so many survivors who believe I'm alone. No one is going to believe me. Yes. If you're listening, I believe you and you are not alone.
We
Yes.
believe you
So
too, and
we
you are
need to,
not alone.
yeah, we need to keep sharing our stories. I believe in the power of stories.
And to our listeners, anybody who wants to share your stories in the comments, we're here for you. As much details as you want or as little as you want to share. One of the
Yes.
things about speaking about these experiences is that it won't hold power over you anymore.
Right. Right.
Because,
Exactly.
like you said, it's not a secret anymore.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Guilt,
So,
shame,
Yeah. All that.
self-blame thrives in secrecy.
yes.
Yes, and the little voice in your head keeps saying, you're not worthy,
Yes.
you're
Yes.
dirty, you're this,
Mhm.
until that's all you believe.
Right.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
you've kept the secret.
Mhm. So yeah, it's time to set people free.
Yes.
Yes.
And people like you,
Yes.
and what we're trying to do is to help with our life story to set
Yes.
them free. Yeah,
To help
the
them.
same way
Yes.
that we have been.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Healing is
Absolutely.
possible.
This is
Absolutely. So we're talking about those people that haven't disclosed, and what would you think? Is disclosing the first step to recovery, or what would you say is the first step to recovery?
Acknowledging what happened and the impact it has on you. Because there are many survivors who will never disclose.
Mhm.
So the important thing is to acknowledge it. Because if you don't acknowledge it, you're not
Mhm.
going to do anything to overcome the effects.
Right.
Yeah. So acknowledging it, seeking support,
yes.
and go from there.
Yes. Ooh, awesome.
Yes. Because although it's good to disclose,
Uh-huh.
it's totally up to the survivor if they want to
Absolutely.
disclose.
Mhm.
100% up to the survivor.
Marie, you are such a blessing.
Thank you. You are such a blessing.
Mom, we want to touch the world because there are some people who may not ever set foot in a church
Yes.
for whatever reason.
Yes.
But we want to let them know that we care about you. We don't know your name, but we care about you. We care enough to do these different podcasts so that you can realize there are avenues to healing.
Right.
Yes. There are
Yes.
avenues to healing. Yes.
And you're not alone.
Exactly.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Right.
And I think, like you were saying, these are topics that are not comfortable.
No, they're
A
not.
lot of people are
Um,
uncomfortable.
right. But because they're keeping them in the dark, that's how it keeps a hold.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if we need to keep shouting from the rooftops,
Yes.
this happened, and there's ways to heal. Not just that, but yeah, disclosing, but not just that it happened, is that there's ways to heal.
Yes.
You know, I remember at the beginning of my journey, I always say, I know what's wrong with me, I just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And that's where help comes from.
Yes. Yes.
Once you acknowledge that there's an issue and that this happened to me,
Yes.
and you didn't do it, it happened to you,
Exactly.
which
The
is
blame
key.
is belong
That's
to that person who
Right,
did that to you.
right.
It's
It
not
happened.
yours.
remember when we did the inventory sheet
Right.
and you said if you were abused, put
You had
in
no
A
guilt,
because
no
it
fault.
said what was your role in it? And she told us if you were abused, put in A, not applicable,
Right.
because you did not
You
cause
did
it.
not have any role
Boom.
in it.
That
Yes.
was the first time in my life
It
That someone
doesn't
told you
matter
it's
what
not your
you.
fault.
because I felt like I had done something
No.
wrong.
Mm-mm.
And my mom told me you didn't do anything
No, you
wrong,
didn't.
but when I saw that going to celebrate recovery, that's when I really started healing
Believe.
from this. That's when I really started healing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter
Yes.
what you were wearing.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't matter if you're married and you didn't consent. It doesn't matter where you were. It doesn't
Right.
matter that you had been intoxicated.
It
It
doesn't
doesn't.
matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It
and I
was
told
done to
people that all the
you.
time. It doesn't matter if
Right.
you went to do drugs with them, to
Doesn't
Right.
drink with
matter.
them. It doesn't
Right.
Doesn't
matter.
matter.
It doesn't matter. It was
Yep.
done to you.
It was
So
done to you.
right. So once you get there, then know that there's help.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you don't want to tell your family or the world or anybody, but go to counsel, get somebody like you, a coach, somebody that can help you guide your process of healing
Right.
because it's for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so
Yes.
that you can be free and feel better about yourself and
Yes.
realize that all this trauma is not self-caused. You did not do this to you.
You did not do this to
Right.
yourself.
Hmm.
Yes. You
Right.
did not give consent.
Right.
Even if you
Right.
didn't say no, that
Hmm.
doesn't mean consent.
Right.
Correct.
The
Right.
absence of no is not consent.
Hmm.
Right. Right.
If you froze and did not move, that's not consent.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Right.
Mm-mm.
If
It's not.
you agreed to kiss, it's not consent for anything
Anything
beyond that.
else?
Everything else that
Right.
came behind.
It's a
Yeah.
consent is a continuous conversation. It's not a
Yes.
yes or no. It's complex and it
Yes.
must be given enthusiastically and willingly.
Yes.
So there
Not
shouldn't be
coerced.
any, yeah, there
Yeah.
shouldn't be any question if there is consent. If you have to
Mhm.
wonder, is she or he saying yes, then you
Mhm.
don't have consent.
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. And it can be coerced.
It
Like
can't be coerced.
right.
Yes.
And if you're impaired, you can't give consent.
Right.
Right.
And if you're being harassed like a person in a position of authority,
Uh-huh.
That is not
that is
consent.
not consent.
Mm-mm.
Correct.
Exactly. It's not consent.
It
Hmm.
is
If
not consent.
you're giving in to save your job, that's
Hmm.
not consent.
Right.
Yes.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Because you have those kind of
Hmm.
situations more
Mhm.
common than you think.
Mhm.
Yes.
You'll have even the pastors in the church take it, yes.
Yes.
85 to 90% of survivors know their perpetrators.
Yeah.
They're in the
Yeah.
home, in the schools, in the churches,
Hmm.
or people of trust.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Definitely. Wow.
So that's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't go to church anymore. You mentioned about church.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. I was in a
Yes.
Facebook group a couple months ago and I made a post about we serve a trusting God or something.
Hmm.
And I was actually attacked
Mm-hmm.
because the perpetrator for that person was
Mm-hmm.
actually in the church.
Mm.
Yeah. So then I have to change it from we to I.
I.
Hmm.
Yes. Because
Yeah.
it was a powerful post for me.
Hmm.
Yes.
So I changed it from we to I
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
I believe in God. And
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
know that even if the perpetrator is in the church,
Hmm.
it's not God. God is
Right.
not a man. We can't judge him
Right.
by the standards of men.
Right.
So I've made that distinction. So
Hmm.
Yes.
my perpetrator wasn't in the church, but I know not to equate God with the
Right.
actions of man.
Right.
Yes.
Man,
Everyone doesn't feel the same way about God
yes,
Well,
that we
because
do.
like she said, because they equate because the person was part of the church and
Mhm.
probably in a position within the church, they make the connection like it's the same thing. And
yes,
it's the comment that I've been saying for the past couple of weeks with things that have been coming out in the news is
mhm,
we attend a very good church.
Mhm.
And
yes,
so far, our pastor is a very good man.
yes.
However, if tomorrow he's arrested, that does not change my relationship with
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 God
God.
God,
because my
exactly.
relationship is with Jesus,
Hmm.
not with him.
Not the
Right.
pastor.
Right.
Yes,
But not everybody has the spiritual maturity to know the distinction. I'm sure
yes,
when I was a baby Christian, I didn't see it that way.
Hmm.
I can see it now because of my maturity in the faith and years. So sometimes that's part of the thing. And there's a lot of people that are hurt in the church for whatever reason of something that happened within the church, not understanding that the church is full of people. But
people.
that's the key
Exactly.
word, people.
Yeah,
But that your relationship should not be. you have a relationship with people, but your faith is to Jesus and God,
Uh,
not to people.
Right.
right.
So yeah, that's part of the hard
Yeah.
work that we have to do sometimes,
Yes.
Yes. And
explaining
God
that
gives
difference.
everyone free will.
Right.
We all have free
Yes.
will. Some choose to do good and some choose to do bad.
Right.
The devil knows his way to church. He's
Yes.
there too.
And the
Oh
Bible
yeah.
better than some of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Most of us. Remember, he
Definitely.
was he was to
Hey,
heaven.
your quarter better than us.
Okay, yes. So, yeah, God is not a man.
No,
no,
he is not.
exactly.
He is
Yeah.
No,
not.
it's not.
Mm.
Well, you said that acknowledging would be the
The
first
first
step.
step.
Mhm.
I was at a book signing a few months ago, and someone picked up. I have an anthology called From Stuck to Limitless, where I have survivors of different trauma share their stories. There were
Okay.
like, a few ladies who were sexually abused as a child, some by fathers and brother. And this young lady, she's in about her 30s, she picked it up and she read through and she put it on. I'm not ready to deal with my shit. And I said to her, congratulations, because at least you know you have shit to deal with. So she acknowledged.
Yeah.
So when she's ready,
Yes.
then she will deal with it.
Yes.
So that she's begun.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
And actually, that was the next question. What do you think somebody who is feeling stuck or unsure should do as moving on in their healing process? Just wait until they are
But until that person is ready,
right.
it's
There's
you
nothing.
may like I may know someone who I know is struggling with the effects of sexual assault.
Mhm.
But if they're not ready,
Right.
there is nothing I can do.
Mhm.
What I would do, I stand in space and I provide the resources.
Mhm.
Okay, there's Coach Marie. She has this, and this. When you're ready, that's contact her. There is Celebration Recovery or wherever
Mhm.
information you can
Mhm.
get.
Mhm.
And also the effects of sexual assault
Mhm.
that show the signs that you're seeing them display so they can see in black and white what
Mhm.
you're going through may be the result of this, and this is how you can move on from here. So just hold space and let them know you're there for them, if they ever need to talk or they need whatever
Yes.
support
Mhm.
you can
Yes.
offer. But
Yeah.
you can't push,
Mhm.
because until they're ready, unfortunately,
Yeah.
we see people suffering and we wish we could make them,
Mhm.
but we just can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Miss Marie, thank you
Thank you
so
so much for
much.
having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the insight you've shared with us. Thank you for listening to our
Mhm.
stories.
Yes, thank you for
Okay?
having me.
Thank you so much. And to our listeners, we have the link to Marie's book, Things That Keep Me Up at Night,
Night.
in the description below. And if you want to connect with Miss Marie or learn more about her work as a sexual assault recovery coach, her contact information will also be provided.
Yes. So if
Yes.
you're a woman listening and you're ready to make a connection with that special man who is going to go slow with you,
Mhm.
if you're ready to find trust, love, and intimacy in your life, download my free guide at sarecoverygift.com.
Mhm.
Learn how to begin the conversation, how to recognize your triggers, how to mute your triggers, and
Yeah.
so much more at
Yeah.
sarecoverygift.com.
And we're going to have those links in the description.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Most
Yes.
definitely.
We're grateful that you're here. This is an important discussion
Yes.
that we will have again.
Yeah.
We will we need to continue to talk about
Yes.
this. And I'm grateful for people like you that continuously work with women and people with trauma. We know, like you said, you have a program for improving intimacy within the couples. And I'm thinking maybe we will bring you back to go into more
Yes.
detail about
Anytime.
that topic. So thank you for being here, and know that we will be talking to you again
Yes,
because
thank you so much for holding space for survivors also, and congratulations on your journey. I know it takes a lot of courage, resilience, so it's not easy. I know, but
Absolutely.
yes,
And Miss Marie's perspective, your perspective is so invaluable.
thank
Okay?
you.
It
Thank you.
takes a special person
Mhm.
to be an advocate. Unfortunately, a lot of things we have to experience ourselves to be able
Good
to
point.
share with people how I got over it, how I
Yeah.
came through it, how I was delivered from it.
Yes.
So I thank God for you. And I'm sure our audience will find this episode and your book very insightful and incredibly helpful. Thank you and
Yeah.
God bless you.
Thank you, and thank God for you. I'm so glad we connected, and I'd love to come back at any time.
We are
Yes,
looking
Appreciate
forward to
you.
it.
thank
Yes.
you. Have
Thank
a blessed
you.
Thank
day.
you.
Have a
Bye
great
bye.
day.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank
You
you. Bye
too.
bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for tuning in into this important conversation. Remember, we're looking forward to hearing from you, sharing your stories, your questions, your comments. We want to be a support for you. Don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with anybody that you think that will benefit from it, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell, and follow us on social media so that we can keep the conversation going.
Also, if you're feeling that you're in a mental health crisis, please seek help. Dial 911, call 911, or if you're feeling suicidal, call 988. And we plan to announce this every episode because your mental health is that important to us. Stay safe and remember until next time,
Don't
don't
forget
forget to thrive.
Have a great day.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.